Have you ever stopped to wonder how doctors can actually see inside our brains to perform these incredible life-saving procedures? Well, in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and dive into the amazing technology of neuroimaging that makes it all possible.
Okay, picture this. A patient's life is hanging in the balance. The clock is ticking, and a medical team needs to move and move fast. But before they can do anything, they have to see what's going on inside that person's brain. So let's explore the remarkable tools that give them that vision, turning a potential catastrophe into a precise, calculated plan.
All right, the first tool on the scene, almost every single time, is the CT scan. You can think of it as the first responder of brain imaging. It's incredibly fast, it's efficient, and it gives doctors that critical first look when every single second counts.
So how does this thing actually work? Well, a CT scanner is basically a super specialized X-ray machine that takes a whole series of images from different angles. Then, a computer stitches them all together into these cross-sectional slices. It's kind of like slicing a loaf of bread to see the inside. A CT scan gives a fantastic, quick overview of the brain's structure in just a matter of minutes.
And the name of the game here is speed. A CT is just phenomenal at spotting urgent problems, like fresh bleeding, which conveniently shows up bright white on the scan. There's also a variation called a CT angiography, where they add a contrast dye that literally lights up the blood vessels, giving doctors an instant roadmap to plan an intervention.
So that quick first look from the CT is absolutely vital. But often, doctors need the most detailed picture possible of the brain's blood vessels. And for that, they turn to what everyone considers the undisputed gold standard.
The name, digital subtraction angiography, sounds pretty complex, I know, but the idea is just brilliant. The machine takes an X-ray of the skull, that's picture 1. Then they inject a special dye that highlights all the blood vessels and take a second picture. Here's the magic part. A computer digitally subtracts the first image, the skull and tissue, from the second one, leaving behind this incredibly clear, perfect map of just the vascular system. And this is really what makes DSA so incredibly powerful. It's not a static image. It gives you a real-time, movie-like view of blood actually flowing through the brain. This lets doctors pinpoint the exact location of a problem, like an aneurysm or a blockage. And, get this, because the tools are already inside the blood vessels, they can often treat the problem right then and there. It's both a diagnostic and a therapeutic tool all in one.
Okay, but what if speed isn't the #1 priority? What if what you really need is an incredibly detailed, high-definition look at the brain tissue itself? Well, that's when the team calls in the specialist detective of the imaging world, the MRI.
Now, unlike CTs that use X-rays, an MRI uses a powerful magnetic field and radio waves. This is a huge difference. It is exceptionally good at telling the difference between all the various types of soft tissue in the brain, giving doctors a level of detail that is almost photographic. It's something other scans just can't match. So, an MRI becomes the tool of choice when the question is about the quality of the brain tissue itself. Is there subtle damage from a past stroke? Is there a tiny abnormality we're looking for? And since it doesn't use any radiation, it's a much safer option for patients who might need repeated scans. Plus, a special version called an MRA can map out blood vessels in amazing detail, often without any invasive catheters. So we have all these incredible individual tools, right? But the real cutting edge, the future of all this, is where they all start to come together. It's in combining their strengths to create an even more complete picture than any one of them could provide alone.
And this is where it starts to feel like science fiction. Fusion imaging takes the data from a CT, an MRI, maybe even a DSA, and it merges it all into a single, comprehensive 3D model of that specific patient's brain. It's like creating a personalized GPS map that lets surgeons plan out and even rehearse an entire procedure before they ever make a single incision. It just takes so much of the guesswork out of the equation and leads to safer, more precise surgery.
Which brings us to, arguably, the most important part of this whole process, the strategy. You see, having all these incredible tools is one thing, but knowing which one to use and when to use it, well, that's everything.
A lot of the time, that first big decision comes down to this fundamental trade-off. Do you need the lightning speed of a CT scan because you're in an emergency situation? Or do you have a bit more time to get the incredible tissue detail of an MRI to investigate a more subtle problem? Each one has a clear and distinct advantage depending on the situation.
This table really sums it all up perfectly. The best way to think about it is like a highly specialized team. The CT is your sprinter, built for speed. The MRI is your deep investigator, uncovering every detail. And the DSA? That's the master navigator, who can also fix the problem on the spot. Even other tools, like ultrasound, have really important, specific roles to play.
So, let's just walk through a really common workflow. A patient arrives in the ER. Step 1, an immediate CT or CTA gives that fast first look to rule out major emergencies. Step 2, if more detail about the brain tissue is needed, they'll be scheduled for an MRI. And finally, Step 3, for the absolute clearest map of the blood vessels and to potentially perform an intervention, they'll proceed to a DSA. It's a really logical progression from a broad overview to a precise solution.
Okay, let's pause for a quick question here. After seeing all the options, which one gives us that ultimate, real-time, movie-like view of the brain's blood vessels? You got it, the DSA.
All right, and one more for you. When that clock is ticking and every second is critical, what's that first, fast, absolutely indispensable tool they're going to use? Exactly, the CT and the CTA.
And that really is the most important takeaway here. There is no single best imaging tool. The true art and science of neurointervention is choosing the right tool for the right patient at precisely the right time. That's what really leads to the best possible outcomes.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought to end on. As these technologies continue to get sharper, faster, and more integrated, the line between simply diagnosing a problem and actively fixing it is beginning to blur. We're really moving toward a future where, in a very real sense, to see the problem is to heal it. Thanks for joining me.